So our story takes place in 1977 with a wealthy businessman from Atlanta and his son, who like to dress in identical pastel-colored cowboy outfits. Which sounds cute, and it would be, except for the fact that the son is clearly in his early 30s at best. And these guys own a stock car, because that's one of the 5 things you're required to do when you're rich and from the South. And there's this big race coming up, and their boy has a really good shot to win it. So they're throwing a huge party, and they're getting the best of everything. The best food, the best music, which I'm assuming is country, and the best to drink, which in 1977 is apparently Coors. How much Coors? About a semi-truck's worth. They want 400 cases, which is 9,600 cans, which is over 115,000 fluid ounces, which is 900 gallons of Coors. First of all, how big of a party are these guys throwing? Because let's say there's a 3 or 4, even a 5 beer limit. That's still 2,000 or 3,000 people at this little NASCAR shindig. And that's assuming Coors is the only thing to drink. Now, maybe it is. Maybe in 1977, Coors is the Hennessy of alcohol. All right, everybody, open bar. Hey, cool. Can I get a Scotch on the rocks? No, but you can get a Coors in a can. Hey, give me a Guinness. Guinness? What are you, a communist? American Coors. Yeah, can I get a White Russian? No, but you can get a Silver Bullet. Bam! Here's the problem, though. In 1977, according to our story anyway, Coors isn't sold east of the Mississippi. Which seems weird today because I'm from North Carolina and I'm pretty sure I can walk down to my Dollar General and pick up a 6-pack of the stuff. And it's also illegal to transport beer across state lines, especially 400 cases of the stuff. But it has to be Coors. No other beer will do. What about Miller Genuine Draft? Fuck you, Miller Genuine Draft. Miller Genuine Draft wouldn't hold a candle to the rich Rocky Mountain goodness that is Coors. So what do our heroes do? They march on down to a local county fair themselves, because apparently they're rich enough to own a stock car, but not rich enough to get yes men to do their dirty work for them. And they find a handsome mustachio gentleman and ask him and his friend, who is famous for singing the seminal hit "She Got the Gold Mine, I Got the Shaft," to head down to Texarkana, Texas, about 600 miles away, to pick themselves up 400 cases of rich, refreshing Coors. And for their trouble, they're going to pay them $80,000. $80,000. $80,000 to make a 600-mile one-way beer run for Coors. Because I guess in 1977, Golden, Colorado is to beer drinking what Farrah Fawcett was to off. So in Chapter 1, we talk about the main way that we do calculations in General 1, which is simply converting between one unit to another, usually using dimensional analysis. And in Chapter 1, there really isn't any chemistry in our calculations. It's just, calculations with units you're mostly familiar with, within the metric system, or imperial to metric units like grams to pounds, inches to meters, that kind of stuff. Then we take a break for a chapter or two to talk about atoms and molecules, naming compounds. And after that, we start to go into reactions where the chemical math starts to begin, rear its ugly head. And students will sometimes struggle with the gram to mole, mole to mole types of stuff we're doing, when really it's just the same math we did back in Chapter 1. So if you got that kind of math, if you're able to do calculations using dimensional analysis, using the Chapter 1 stuff, there's really no reason why you can't do it in the reaction chapters. And what I like to do to kind of show that units really don't matter when it comes to the dimensional analysis calculations is I'll just make up units. Just make up some stupid units to get my point across. Because if I'm good at anything, it's making up dumb stuff to get my point across. So I call it alternate dimension or alternate reality dimensional analysis. So let's do a few of those to show what I'm talking about. Let's say in some alternate dimension, length is measured 2 ways, in Jordans and LeBrons. And in this dimension, 1 Jordan is equal to 5.8 LeBrons. Just like in this dimension. Bam! Gen X troll! Let's say you have something measured in Jordans. It's 55 Jordans long, and you want to convert that to units of LeBrons. So with any dimensional analysis problem, you start with the number and unit you're given. So we're going to start with 55 Jordans. And if we're doing dimensional analysis, we'll want to multiply it by something to get rid of the unwanted unit. So looking back at the conversion factor that we were given, that 1 Jordan equals 5.8 LeBrons, we can write that as a fraction one of two ways. Either 5.8 LeBrons per Jordan, or 1 Jordan is 5.8 LeBrons. So remember how dimensional analysis works. The idea is that you're just taking these unwanted units and setting them up like fractions. It's the same trick you were taught back when you first taught how to multiply fractions. You take 1/2 and multiply it by 2/3. You might have first been taught, okay, 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 3 is 6, that's 2 6, that simplifies to 1/3. But at some point you were eventually taught that the 2's are on opposite sides of each other, they cancel out. So we're doing that with units in dimensional analysis. So in order for the Joe unit to cancel out here, we need to write our conversion factor in a fraction form the first way, with the Jordans on bottom and LeBrons on top. Just like in the, no, wait. That way the Jordan unit drops out, and now we can see, to do this conversion, we multiply 55 times 5.8. Because that's the great thing about dimensional analysis. You take care of the units, and once you do that, all the multiplication division stuff takes care of itself. You don't have to memorize, okay, to convert this to this, I divide by whatever. Or to convert this thing to this thing, I got to multiply by some number. You just focus on the units, all the multiplication division stuff works itself out. So here, again, we multiply 55 times 5.8. That gives us 320 LeBrons. All right, so let's look at another example. Let's say in some alternate dimension, I don't know, volume is measured in two ways, in Zims and Podgornies. By the way, if you get both of those references, God bless you, sir or madam. But let's say here that 1 Zim is equal to 8.104 kilopodgornies. And we want to convert 526 podgornies to units of Zims. So again, we start with the unit we're given, whatever it is. Here is 526 podgornies. So again, we want to multiply it by something to get rid of the podgorny unit, because we don't want that unit. We want a Zim unit. But if we start with the conversion factor we're given, we just can't plug that in like we did before, because you can't put the podgornies on the bottom and Zims on the top, because in this case it's actually kilopodgornies. Our number has just the base unit, so they don't really cancel out. So first we have to convert podgornies to kilopodgornies, and then we can use that conversion factor. So, but also I should add, we're assuming that this alternate dimension does use the exact same metric prefixes that we use. And let's not get too carried away with this dumb example. It's already sounding stupid enough. But a kilo of anything is equal to 1,000 of the base unit. You know, 1 kilogram is equal to 1,000 grams. 1 kilo podgornies is equal to 1,000 podgornies. So we can use this conversion factor with podgornies on the bottom, or 1,000 podgornies, 1 kilo podgorny on top. That'll get rid of the unwanted base unit of this guy in a skirt. And now if we stop here, we're in units of kilopodgornies. But that's not the unit we want. We want units of Zims. But now we can take the conversion factor we were given earlier, plug that in, set it up where the kilopodgornies are across from each other. And now we're in units of zems. So we divide by 1,000, divide by 8.104. That will give us 0.0649 zems. So you see, it doesn't matter what the unit is, whether it's inches or grams or moles of one thing to moles of another thing. Just focus on the units, all and whatever those units are. Imperial units, metric units, chemical units, dumb units that I pulled off Wiki Commons, clip art, whatever the units are. So should I do one more? Are we having fun yet? No? No? Ah, screw it, we'll do one more. I guess you can stop now if you want. Okay, good, let's keep going. All right. If there's ever a video on my channel that would get me into the deep into YouTube subreddit, it's probably going to be today's. But anyway, one more. Right, let's say in some alternate dimension that, what have I done? Length, volume, weight, we'll do weight. Weight, mass, if you will, is measured in 2 units. Groots and hodors. And let's say that 1 hodor is equal to 2.3 times 10 to the 5 groots. And we want to convert 4.5 times 10 to the 8 microgroots, little baby groot, into units of centihodors. So again, we start with this weird, stupid unit that we're given. Hey, we got to multiply by something. So in order to use our conversion factor from groots to hodors, we got to get, kind of like before, we got to convert, or actually it's kind of the opposite of before. Instead of going base unit to kilo, here we got to go from micro to the base unit. But it's the same idea. 10 to the negative 6 of the base unit is equal to 1 micro of whatever we're talking about. Here it's groots. So 1 microgroot is equal to 10 to the negative 6 groots. And if we write it this way with the microgroots on the bottom, that'll cancel out. So now we're in units of groots. So now we can use the conversion factor that's given to us and write it where the groot unit cancels out. And here we are in units of hodors, but we want centihodors. But just, I know it's silly to me too. But with remember, if you have 1 centi of anything, you have 10 to the negative 2 of that thing. And some people, they like to write it 100 centi equal 1, like 100 centimeters is 1 meter. Me, if you notice, anytime I do these metric conversions, I always keep the base unit with the power of 10. And that's just a way to sort of sanity check when I'm checking my work that I didn't accidentally flip my conversion factor around. Because it's really, really easy to say, 1,000 kilometers in 1 meter. So that's just a little thing I do. If you want to use 100 centi whatever in one of the base unit, that's fine. Same difference. But here, the hodor unit drops out, and now we're in the unit we want. So we multiply and divide as needed, and that will give us 0.2 centihodors. Again, that's all there is to it. Whatever units you're talking about, just focus on the units. And whatever the units are, grams, moles, liters, hodors, just whatever that unit is, just start with the unit you're given. Try to get rid of that unit and keep going down the line until you've got the unit you want. All right, so that'll be it for today, and I'll see you guys later. By the way, that's $80,000 in 1977 dollars. Adjusted for inflation, according to the Department of Labor, because I can't stop thinking about this shit. In 2016 monies, that's over $350,000. 350 large. What is their budget for this party? They're spending over $250,000 in today's money for just one beverage. We're making that trip all the way to Texas. Should we get anything else for you? No, that's okay. We got other people handling it. Al Pacino and Jimmy Buffett, they're going down to Key West to pick up the seafood. Robert Redford and Waylon Jennings, they're heading up to Lynchburg, Tennessee to pick up the whiskey. Paul Newman and Hank Jr., they're heading out to North Carolina to pick up the barbecue. Robert De Niro and Chris Christopherson, they're heading up to New York to pick up some pizza. I got Jeff Bridges and Willie Nelson, they're heading up to Eastern Kentucky to pick up some, well, you know what they're picking up. And Telly Savalas and Merle Haggard, they're going to go out to California to grab the wine. That one's going to take a while. All right,